Well, good morning. I'm Jordan. I just thought I'd begin with how I want to run the session. What I thought I would do is basically start with the story of my latest funding round and just tell that story, break down the barriers, and then potentially go to a couple of key areas. And how I want to structure the event so after the story is kind of have someone up here, it's not necessarily me, but have one person speaking, the one who wants to ask a question afterwards, to be sat on that stool, and effectively it's kind of, you know, it's a mini line, if you will, and it's a discussion between two people. That's why I started going to Q&A. Does that make sense? So if I was here, you've got someone here basically asking a question, and someone sat there waiting to ask the next one. Anyone here who's successfully raised fundraising? Awesome, awesome. You've got an awesome story apparently. So yeah, feel free to share and get out of that. It's not my session, it's our session.
I have a whole presentation for that.
Okay. Bring the magic even on this session. So Giftcannon. Let me begin with the story. What is Giftcannon? Giftcannon is basically it's a mobile app that allows you to send a real gift along with a personal message instantly. Your friend receives that gift on a mobile, then goes in store, flashes their phone, and picks up said gift. So a good example of that would be like, it's your birthday, Ferdinand, I couldn't be there with mates, I'm going to buy you a pint. And you're like, I'm like, sorry, we couldn't miss your birthday, here's a pint. You should get your card, you flash your phone, and you pick up a pint. That is basically it. It's an in-store redemption model, micro-gifting, sub £30, that's it. It's not complex, it's not big. So the story of Giftcannon was, myself and a co-founder, Henry, we looked at this thing called social gifting back in 2011. The whispers of the word were coming out. And we got excited about the space, and we really wanted to look into it. The more we looked into it, the more we were like, this is a great idea, let's go do this. So, from my VC background, the key question then is, build a team, right? If you're going to give it any chance, I mean, startups, fundamentally, statistically, we're all going to fail, a couple of them win, but like, the odds are stacked against us pretty hard. So what gives you the best chance of success? It's quite simply the quality of the team, number one factor. Put a crap idea into a great team, they'll have success. Put a brilliant idea into a shit team, they'll fail. And so the question really was identifying at the very beginning, what are the complementary skill sets that we need to build a team that are going to execute this business model? Marketplace, I've got to have venues and partners, I need sales, I've got to have tech guys with mobile experience, you know, you've got to have all this stuff to come together. So we built the team, and once we felt that we had the necessary team, there was 4 of us that got together. The second thing we did is when we looked at the business model, we thought actually, in order for this business model to really scale, and in order to achieve the type of business we want to build, it's going to need a Series A. It's going to need expansion and growth capital. It's not a vanity exercise of raising a Series A so you can shoot around and go, hey, where's the Series A? It's like, actually, if this is going to get to scale, national scale, international scale, it's going to need some serious marketing spend, it's going to need some serious budget. So, my first one was like, okay, if that's the case, let's go talk to the VCs. Right at the beginning. VCs, the misconception is that they're really hard to talk to. Wrong. That's what they get paid to do. They have a fund, they take a management fee, they take a salary. Their salary is to look for potential investments. Their salary is to listen and to see what's going on in the market and assess opportunities. You phone them up, let's get a meeting. So you literally walk in the door, and myself, it does help, in fairness, slightly harsh for me, because I know a lot of the guys in London and worked in the industry. But the first thing I did was go in and say, okay, hypothetically, this is what we're trying to do. If you were to, you know, is this a space you're interested in? If you were going to write a check between 1 to 5 million, what do you think are the key metrics you would need and quantums you would need to see for you to write that check? And that exercise alone was so powerful because actually I got the VCs pretty much to tell me what the key metrics and value drivers for my business were, or that they saw in their own eyes. So I sat there and thought, okay, they're interested in this, and they're like, fundamentally it's a buy and roll, so you need this, this, and this, and we would like to see this many transactions, or these many customers, or this kind of retention rate, because when we start backing out. So I then had kind of a good target, right? I knew, I shook people's hands, I looked them in the eye, and I was like, so Rob, if I come back with this stuff, right, you're going to write the check? And he's like, whatever, let's see if you come back. But I also made the point of doing that because if you did get there, you can kind of, it's kind of like, you promised, Rob, you promised. But anyway, so off we went, and we started building. So we started coding, we're like, we'll do this MVP, and that's where we'll talk about the MVPing a business model, marketplace business model later. But we essentially did those initial tests. We ended up building a product. It got to the point where you couldn't MVP anymore. You just need to see, are people going to pay for this? Right? Are they going to transact? Are they going to redeem? Are they going to buy people's gifts? Right? And as that process went out, living in London, Henry and I, my co-founder, really were basically paying for the dev salary. We had an office which we were paying for. We were paying for our rent in London and living. And so our runway, which we thought was a lot larger than it was actually not as much as we thought. So we ended up in a really shit situation, which we kind of promised ourselves we would never do, which was like we're running out of cash and we're nowhere near Series A metrics. Like nowhere near. And do we even have enough metrics to raise a seed round? And the truth of the story was, Henry and I basically were forced to fundraise the seed round too early, earlier than I would have liked. But that's the truth of the story. So the next thing you know, while we're trying to build this business and get the metrics and grow at a rapid pace, I'm also spending basically most of my time, if not all my time, pitching, executive summaries, turning up to funding events, networking, trying to get these angels and potential seed funds together to get the seed round, to give us that runway to get to the Series A. And it is a shit situation to find yourself when you're in that. Why? Because you just watch your baby stop growing. You watch your business come to a grinding halt. Why? Fundraising is a full-time activity. It is fucking hard, especially in the seed round. Because we were trying to raise, at the time, we were trying to raise 250 sterling. And we'll talk about market-driven stuff and various other things around this. But we wanted to raise 250 sterling. We're like, okay, well, that basically means I've got to get a bunch of people together, business owners together, who are going to write me that check. And there's a whole load of cats I've got to earn.
So how do you come up with the number?
That to me is market-driven. So depending on where you're raising money, London, America, whatever, the way I see it is the market basically sets A, the quantums that are really available, and B, the valuations. It's not the other way around. You can play within it, right? And so what I mean by that is, so the amount of
use of proceeds has to be based on how you want to spend money.
Yeah, but the reality is, you back engineer it, is my advice, because these things you can't change. So if you come up with your forward, well, this is what we want to do, this is how much money we need, and then you try and hit the market, what you're trying to do is you're trying to put a square block into a round hole, and it doesn't, unless by lucky it just happens to fit the market, right? So the reason why I say that is, you look at the geography you're raising, and what it means is, say, take London, right? There are some tax advantages that have come through called Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, and that basically meant that for rounds up to 150 sterling, there were huge tax incentives for angel investors. So it reduced their risk profile. Before that tax incentive existed, 150 rounds weren't that common. Now, people literally I'm raising 150 because everyone gets it. It's like, oh, that's the tax thing, that's the maximum tax shield. Bang. So that was a market-driven thing that enabled that situation to arise. The other amount in seed is basically a normal seed in London tends to be around the 250 mark, 200, 250, up to about 300. And then there's this sort of missing middle, because this is the problem in London, right? If you want to raise, say, 500, 600,000, you're below Series A. So the VCs are like 1 million and above. There are some VCs that claim they do seed, like Goldson, bullshit, they don't. Index had a seed fund. I've not heard of anyone who's actually got funded better than in the UK. So, and that's relatively new to me. So you're too small for the VCs. There are a couple of seed VCs that exist. That's like a handful of 5 max. Now they'll write checks between 125 to 200 to 250. So they're in that ballpark, but they won't want to take the whole check, right? So there's this annoying thing that if you're in that sort of £600 or 700, you're in that gap. It is just basically a missing middle. By the lack of, you basically have to get all the seed VCs on board, and a couple of angels in order to raise that money. So it's really fucking hard.
Just a question, is there anyone in the room who knows the Dutch, that sort of equivalence, but in Dutch terms, because it probably is different because tax benefits.
I would say make it euros, and then you're pretty close to
Is it
the
similar?
Dutch situation in my mind.
Let's come up with, let's say, less than 50, maybe somewhere between 100,000 and 50. Our business angel did 100,000.
Yeah.
Those
See
years
that?
ago.
And
See
they
that?
have tax benefits, is there a sort of a limit there as well, so the 150 mark, is there anything?
No, but I think what's relevant to Dutch investors is whether they get more or less than 5%. Because in terms of tax, that matters to them. To get more than 5% is another tax category.
Okay.
So they either want to get substantially more, or they want to do a low amount and stay under 5%.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll definitely get you guys up here because that's the point, right? It's market driven and you have to know the market which you're raising money.
Yeah.
And then you work back from it. So that's one of the key
There's
lessons.
still the category of informal.
Yeah.
And my experience is that is completely intransparent.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the range, it's below 250. It's also dependent on the type of guy in front of you. Because there's still people out there in the Netherlands who think they can join this company and do seed funding for as little as 20k euros. I think those times are over. But they're still out there thinking that they can do that.
See that to me, especially in London, unfortunately, I can only talk about London and the US. I can't talk about the scene in the Netherlands. But from my experience in London and the US, you are wasting your time trying to raise money for 20k, 50k, unless it's coming from a full family friend, which is like a couple of phone calls. Because if you're trying to raise that from smart, investors, it's going to be just as much work. Like it really is. The quantum, in many ways, doesn't matter. This is what you start realizing when you start de-bullshitting the industry about fundraising. The market tells you roughly what's available, from who that's available, so what the source is. And it also tells you like the valuation that you're going to be doing that, because there's basically a market range.
But what about convertible notes?
Don't exist in the UK.
They don't do that.
They don't do it because there's no need, because of the tax incentives. But also, it's a European cultural thing in the UK, where all the guys with the money, basically the VCs are all ex-finance guys, right? Also, they're much more conservative. So, like, they want equity. It's also a pride thing. It's in their head. Like, that's the way it's always been. Why change up? I want ownership.
Some people split it up. They say, I'll give you half and equity half and convertible notes.
You don't, that just basically, the short answer is that does not exist in London.
Okay, that's totally different here.
Yeah.
I don't see any offers that they don't split up the equity with some kind of loan.
No.
Which totally drives the valuation of these businesses down to something insignificant.
Yeah.
It's not a convertible carrying a new offer instead of lane. Usually convertibles are carrying a new as well. It's only that rockstar funds that are meant to raise the first convertibles here.
Yeah, well, convertible, it depends on the person. Most loans I know are convertible.
Yeah, so that doesn't really exist. In the US, convertible notes are much more accessible, especially at seed. Series A, you don't really convert.
The problem with not just taking full equities at the valuation is a lengthy discussion.
Yeah, well, in Europe, it shouldn't be. And I'll be honest with you, the amount of founders that I see who have disproportional views of what their valuation should be, like, yeah, it's 10 million, fuck off, get realistic. And the reason why I say that is because you'll just have a lot less pain. It shouldn't necessarily be a discussion. So in the UK, the valuation for a seed is, for a startup seed round, it's somewhere between, the standard is about 500 sterling pre-money. Does everyone understand the difference between pre and post-money? So it's 500 sterling pre-money, and the best startups at seed will get a valuation between 750 pre-money, but that's basically the range. Right? And if you're really desperate and you're running out of cash, you can start slipping behind 500. But the middle is 500, 750, and a little bit below if you're really desperate.
Basically, you're saying that on average you'll lose a third of equity.
No, because it depends obviously how much you're raising, right? That's the valuation. The valuation is set in the market. If you're raising 250 or 150, it then proportionally distributes how much equity you're giving away, right? So with that,
you're choosing a very interesting model. You say it's just market driven. Just look at what people are raising and raise a similar amount.
well, it's also because this is the way investors work. Is they all talk. Investors talk to each other. Right? All the business angels talk to each other. They're trying to get each other. The VCs talk to each other. That, in their mind, is what is going on in the market. That is what they think, right? And it's one of those things where you might be able to bully them up a little bit, but these are set in stone from the people who've got the power of putting pen to paper on a check. And that's market driven. So understand where you're going, what realistically is a valuation rate, because there is nothing more discrediting when you look at an exec summary and you look at the valuation and think this guy's what is he smoking? Fuck that in the bin. Right? It might be a great business model, but you lose absolute credibility when you're like, I don't want to deal with this idiot because he's got a completely overblown valuation and I just can't be asked with a negotiation because he's way up here and the market is here. It's not even close. Like go in at 750, end up at 500. Or fight for 750, but at least you're in the right market, right? You're in the range. They didn't laugh you out of the room. So again, there's an element about being credible from all stages of what you're showing them. And that's just understanding the market element.
So when you were looking for seed money,
yeah.
Your company had no revenue at
No.
the moment. So the
Well,
company hurt the valuation significantly.
Yeah, it was also because they, as the process began, so let me finish the story of Giftcannon and then we'll open up some of this stuff. So I started pitching and networking like a motherfucker, right? So you get the exec sums, you have a couple of pages that literally is like, if anyone is remotely interested, here's my business card. Please make sure you've got nice business cards, smoking mirrors, and like the first meetings do matter. Nice business card, a nice exec sum, formatting matters, it's just 2 pages, like get it looking slick, right? If you have a website or a landing page, again, get it looking slick. It doesn't have to be too much more than that, but the touch points and the first points that they're going to do when they Google it, and the business card and the exec sum that you send across is like that's all part and parcel, right? So you basically go to every single event. You go to every meetup, you go to every pitching event, even the ones you pay for, you go to everything, and what you do, it's no secret, you go, I'm raising money! And you shout it from the rooftops, and you tell everyone, because it's not a secret, because it's a 6 degrees of separation. The more people know that you're raising money, it gets you in contact with those with checkbooks who are looking for deals. Do not forget that investors are looking for shit to invest in, right? They're not sat, they also have the same problem. So talk about it to everyone, get out, and it is a full-time event. You are on the road, especially with an angel round, because in the UK, again, very conservative, market-driven, an average angel, business angel, will look to invest 25 to 50,000 sterling. That's the market average. And so the annoying thing about that is, when you're trying to arrange a 250 round, if you haven't got a seed VC on board, you've got to have a lot of people around the table. And it comes to this major problem about herding cats and keeping momentum up. Because I guarantee you this much, you're not going to meet all the 10 or 12 people you need all in the same week. So how do you keep the people you met a month ago still interested? How do they not forget
That's a
that?
problem I never had to solve. Because one person who's funding.
Who just wrote a check. Yeah.
So if you have multiple, how do you make sure the terms are like aligned, stuff like that?
Yeah, so the way you do, well, the way I
have an easier question. Why would you actually go from the route where you have more than one person in the same route?
Because you don't have a choice.
Okay.
Like, yes, well, it depends, right? So there's this balancing act you want to do between...
Because you know there's no person out there who write a check for the full amount.
It's very rare. I mean, conceptually, appetite speaking, they don't want to take on all that risk themselves. They want to spread that risk with other investors.
Okay.
But also, it's about having the maximum value above and beyond the cash.
But these people get organized as well.
Yeah, there are business angel networks you go to, right?
Yeah.
Where they all hang out and they sometimes bring some friends along. But think about it from your point of view as well. It might be less hassle, it might be quicker to get one person to write the whole check, right? The second question is, what do you want? You want more than just money. You want people who can break down doors, who can network, who can give you industry expertise, who can tell you when you're going wrong. You want a mentor. You want more than money. Fact. You should always be looking for smart money is the word, right? You want more money. So when you're sitting there, not only are you selling yourself, it's a two-way process. Like, A, do I like you? Jordan, sorry, cool. Do I like you? Do I want you? Do I, what's the kind of story? But also, what do you bring to the money, right? So, for example, with Giftcannon, I waited. So we had this whole issue about momentum around the angels because I wanted two angels in particular. I wanted the one that went on holiday for a month, and I literally just had to sit there twiddling my thumbs. So the two angels that I wanted was this guy called David Pritchard, who's the ex-founder of Open Table Europe. And so he'd spent, so obviously he listed on the NASDAQ for a couple of billion, he took away a couple hundred million, happy days. He's a great guy, but he spent 7 years in Europe scaling the restaurants, right, and bolting on the restaurants. So I've got to do the same fucking problem with Giftcannon. So I'm like, I want him because he knows how to do that better than us. How to scale a sales force, how to really have the connections with the restaurants, with the bars, with the cinema chains, stuff like that. Second one I went in for was a guy called Luke Johnson, who IPO'd a business called Pizza Express, like a pizza chain. But he owns like another whole series of restaurant chains. And I was like, you can give me 600 restaurants overnight. I want you. And he was the guy on holiday. But it's always thinking about what they're bringing. So I also got a business angel of mine who's Tina. She's also a VC lawyer, brings in legals, does a lot of legals for free. Right? Just thinking about who you want around the table. So there is a process where if you're doing business angels, the other big warning is until you ask them to literally write the check, you don't know whether they're in or out. Until the money is in the bank, you don't know whether they're in or out. Always put in a safety factor, because I'm continually surprised every time I fundraise that the people I think are the most interested, who are like, they're going to give money, they walk. Last minute, they're like, yeah, it's not.
It's actually the other way around. People ask you hard questions, but keep doing that, I won't ending up investing in it.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. The one who you think like is kind of not really happy with the answers you give back, keeps asking more questions, you know, is like an arsehole to you on the phone a little bit, and you're like, oh, this guy's breaking my balls. Everyone's at best, yeah, that's true.
There was a fellow startup in our incubator that thought they had their own secure, so they signed up 5 angels. They're ridiculous valuations, they made $2.5 million for a seed round. They had all signed letters of intent, all the angels. It was across the holiday season, so they all went on holiday. And they organized the official signing for after the holiday in a joint session with all the angels present. So they brought out the champagne and everything, they were happy for a week. And then the next day it was completely silent. So obviously the deal fell through. Why? Because they put everybody in the same room. So every angel will, until the final moment, have doubts. So if you put them in the room where they can all air it, one will say, hey, I have a problem with A. And then the second will think, shit, I have a problem with B, but I now also have a problem with A. And he will then voice B, and the other will think, oh shit, I have a problem with C.
So this is
A and B.
this is I totally agree with this, right? And so for me, one of the things that I did about momentum with angels was to bring them together for informal drinks. Because I'm like, how do I like keep them interested? That's been people I met like 2 months ago. How do I do that? So I thought, yeah, I'll bring them together and just have a drink session, and we'll get to know everyone. And we'll like party time. That's exactly what starts happening. So what are your concerns? And like they sit there talking, fuck. But in many ways it's good, because honestly, like, yes, it could arguably derail the process, but I believe in complete transparency, and I also believe that you need to be asked these hard questions. You need to have answers for them, right? And fundamentally, if you've got a whole bunch of smart investors, maybe with different type experiences, and you can't make them all happy in a completely transparent way, maybe you shouldn't be raising that money. Maybe the business is probably not ready to
Their terms were ridiculous anyway, so.
yeah. But I just wanted to talk quickly about this, and then we'll open up and get you guys to talk about the Dutch market and ask questions. So we talked about the market trading. This one, power of love, passion and energy. In many respects, I raised the seed round from documenting the power of love from our consumers, our customers. Not because I didn't have any metrics, they weren't that great, there weren't that many people through, but like capturing people's sort of, you know, interviewing, videoing, getting testimonials, just going, I love this. So like stupid things, like some guy I've never met before, he's just redeemed a pint in the pub, and he's like, you know, photo, or like, I interview him there on my phone, I'm like, so, never met you before, what's your name? And he's like, Charlie, and I'm like, what do you think? He's like, it's fucking awesome, I'm going to use this. Like, you can document that love, do document it, because that is just as powerful when you're investing. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, the metrics themselves. You can actually use that is a really powerful thing. Passion, energy, they're investing in you, they're investing in a team. It's about human beings. Be passionate, be high energy. and that in itself can get funding raised across the ground. You've got a team that's just all singing together and really believe. We can talk about angels and money cast that stuff. Are you ready? I think this is one of the interesting final thing around this is, I personally think far too many people aren't ready for fundraising and they begin too early. And then we talked about the fact that your business grinds to a halt because you're fundraising, that's what you're focusing on. It would have been better off taking those 2 months and just doubling down on the business and growing it. And that is just something with experience, right? I think accelerators are a great aspect around this, where if you can get on an accelerator, they're designed to get you funded afterwards. That is how they live. So it also gives you a bit of cash to keep the lights on a little bit, but they're a great platform. I think a lot of people don't spend enough time. They spend too much time trying to fundraise. What they should be doing is taking half that time and putting it into applying to accelerators, is my personal opinion. But open it up to questions and bring it on board, and let's get your input on the Dutch market.
Yeah, I would say, so the next session starts in 10 minutes, so if you want to, continue, this is got momentum, maybe take it down to the cafe, or just pick another time slot later on.
Okay, cool.
10 minutes is the next session.
Any good questions?
Is it going done on here or live? What's that?
What do you mean? Fundraising?
Yeah, fundraising, yeah.
You can use crowdfunding platforms to raise money. I have my own personal strong beliefs against them, frankly.
Investor platforms.
Basically, there are stuff like Angel. So there's Angel List in the UK, and there's a whole stuff where you can create a profile, and you can see the profile of other angels, so you can see who you need to be contacted with, and you can try and reach out using these platforms to get meetings. Fundamentally, like, the only automated way to do that without meeting people is crowdfunding. And I personally, my 2 pennies piece of just one man is you shouldn't crowd raise. Why? Like, you want people who bring more than just money. And it's one of those scenarios around it, like at the same point, like the more people you have on board, the more the heartache it is to manage those people and continue to manage those people after they've invested. Like, setting out my board minutes, every board minute, sending them out, giving them, like, I do weekly updates because I'm a bit crazy when things are very fast. And I keep in touch, but you can get feedback and you can get questions. And you can have problem investors as well. Like, one investor who's got product your check, and then all they do is make your life misery from that moment on. And they end up shooting themselves in the foot because they're also taking too much of your own time that the business also shrinks. It's not growing at the speed it should be. Now, there's experience about how you find these problem investors around, and I think a lot of people, when you look back, who've had them, knew they were problem investors at the beginning, but they were so desperate to raise the cash, they were like, oh, we just did it. Yeah. But trust me, don't do that, because what you don't want to do is have a major failure where you pissed off an investor. Think about your reputation. If you raise money and you're completely transparent, and you deal with them in a really great way, even if the business is not a success, you're like, I gave it my all, I gave it my passion, you saw what I was doing, you're fucking investing in me, the business model turned out to be wrong, didn't work, didn't get scaled, didn't scale cost effectively, whatever reason. They will, if you maintain their respect, that value of people you can go back to with the next idea, the third idea, the fourth idea, and get money like that, and also the way they all talk to each other, investors all talk to each other. That reputation will catapult you if you manage them properly. If you piss them off, like I've seen founders who are like, yeah, they've got the money, it's my business, they're going to fuck themselves, they're investors, they know the risk they're taking. Right? That attitude is the why this guy has literally not done anything. Because, you know, investors get that feedback now, this is rubbish. Anything else? So I'm just conscious that you're saying out of politeness.
What's your incentive in giving this session?
It's called being an entrepreneur, in the sense that you know that as a community, you might stand to succeed, stand alone, divided, you will fail. Like, it is about being, like, it's important for me to give back and help each other out. Yeah, but it's like, honestly, you never know what this connection is going to do, right? So networking, regardless of fundraising, one key belief, like, it's a need to have, not nice to have. You've got to do it. Just give back, you don't have to